It is January 27th, and I'm just sitting down to make my first writing vlog of 2026. Um, it's been an eventful month so far, I guess you could say. Oh, my hair is not looking so hot. I need to get a haircut. I need to get a pedicure. I need to get my rear in gear in general and just kind of get past this post-holiday slump. Not really a slump, I guess. I have been writing kind of a lot. I think the last time I checked in, I was at like somewhere around 20K words in my new manuscript, and now I'm closing in on 40. I think I'm at like 39,200, something like that. So I have been pretty productive in writing this month. However, I'm feeling my attention slip a little bit because um this is not a political channel and this is not a political vlog. I will just say that events in the United States in the month of January have been upsetting and have drawn my attention back to my second manuscript even more. I was already feeling that I wanted to start editing that manuscript. It's a dystopian. I'm going to be comping it to School for Good Mothers and then one other dystopian, hopefully, that I can find that's a bit more recent than 2021, but it is in line with like the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025 and reproductive freedoms, reproductive violence, this kind of thing. So it's not exactly what's going on in the US right now, but I do feel like it's been quite dystopian over there. So yeah, that's where I am. I probably turned some people off by saying that, but that's how I feel. And by the way, I'm Zinnia Gann, and I like to read and write, and I write mostly horror, dystopian, and just speculative in general, perhaps is a good way to phrase it. But yeah, and that's also the direction I like to read. Yeah, that's me. Um, but yeah, so because I'm looking back on this second manuscript that I've been keeping in the drawer, not because I don't think it's good, but because I think I was just way too close to it and not really ready to unpack it. Now I'm kind of at a point where I'm saying, yeah, my critique partner read it and she really liked it, but she also really likes me. So I don't know how objective she can really be at this point. Like, she's good at giving me fuel and giving me motivation to keep writing the next chapter. I love having her read chapter by chapter all of my work, but I need an alpha reader, is what I've come to find out. So I've been just today, and I guess last week I first started poking around on Fiverr, but today I really like locked in for a little while and looked at a lot of Fiverr profiles. And I found one person that really stuck out to me that I was like, she had good reviews and she seems to be interested in this type of book, at least. Like, she specializes more in like sci-fi fantasy, and um yeah, I think she's just going to be a good fit. I'm going to look at a few more people. She said she would give me a quote. But I'm really looking for someone who is female. I'm not going to say this book is only for like women, but it's going to skew more toward uterus havers, or I guess people who are really interested in women's rights in general, or really opposed to extreme conservatism. So I did want to choose an alpha reader who is of the female persuasion. I think that's a little, yeah, I think it's a necessary thing. I do hope to also run it by some non uterus havers in the future to kind of get some more diverse and varied opinions. But yeah, I think I've kind of settled on this person. I'm waiting for her to send me a quote. I'm gonna continue to look around though, and I'm not gonna. I feel like I don't want to do screen recording because I don't want to like be promoting any um alpha or beta readers on Fiverr who I don't actually know anything about their work, and I can give like, yeah, I don't know how I could really add anything to that, or give any kind of concrete guidance or feedback to anybody else about this process. But I will check back in. I read the first couple of chapters back over, and I felt immediately that like I want, before I get back in touch with this book, like, because I think if I read it all the way through again, I'm going to be kind of back at the same point where I'm too close to it to really accept any critique. So I would rather have blind critique where I'm like going off of my memory of what this book is, and for me to be less emotionally attached to the actual words on those pages. So that's what we're going to be doing. um I think she has a 14-day turnaround, but I think that's kind of standard or the norm. And honestly, I've kind of thought about maybe wanting to be a beta reader, maybe wanting to try to have like a gig through Fiverr. I will say though, I have been pretty much inactive professionally in the month of January. We got a sewing machine, or I gave my daughter like this little like kind of junky sewing machine. It works really well for what it is. I gave that to her for Christmas, and it was kind of a gift to both of us. So I've been making some things. Actually, let me grab that skirt. I made her this precious little, kind of like a, well, it's like a roughly high low little situation. She loves it. She loves to twirl in it. Yeah, we didn't have a pattern, so it came out pretty good, I think. It fits well. So I've been kind of distracted with that. We've been making her first little embroidery sampler. Um, yeah, it's been a really crafty kind of month, but I want to focus, like, lock in a little more, focus a little more specifically on writing, and yeah, try to figure out. I'm This week I'm gonna vlog more. I hope this week, because today's only Tuesday. So I'm hoping to go to the cafe tomorrow to work on my current work in progress, my which I haven't introduced in a while, I don't think. So it's a speculative fiction monkey's paw sort of retelling, or it's heavily inspired by the monkey's paw, but really it's a speculative investigation of consumerism and longing for possession, and it's about ambition, maybe. I really need to work on the pitch. And actually, no, I did write a little snippet of a pitch. Maybe this is a good time to share it. um okay, here it is. I wrote, and this is probably going to change before I query. But I have a tagline that says, "What if all your wishes were granted, but you still had to get up and go to work the next morning?" Um, I think that's a fun tagline for the front cover of a book. Or maybe as like the intro line to a query letter. And then for like the one sentence pitch, this is what I've got right now. A corporate expat in Vietnam discovers that her wish fulfilling lucky charm still obeys ancient rules, even in the age of algorithms, and the most careful wording can never outrun chaos. Kind of long, a little clunky, but I think it really captures the sense of this book, that we're dealing with this ancient, omniscient narrator juxtaposed with a very modern, snarky, slightly bitchy protagonist who you you won't really love her, but you'll see yourself in her, and you'll just feel like she's kind of messy, and hopefully people will connect with that. I certainly connect with that. Yeah. So that's kind of where I am with that draft. And like I said, I'm coming up on 40,000 words. I'm really close to the apex of the crisis. Not really a climax. The climax comes later, because I'm doing a disturbance in two doorways anyway. I've talked about this. So, like, she's already passed through doorway one. We've had a lot of rising action and falling, rising and falling action in between. And now we're coming up to the second doorway, which, yeah, is a crisis. It's a decision point, and After that point, we're gonna have a lot of sharp escalation toward like a climax, crisis, a climax sort of crisis, where yeah, it's gonna be the highest point of stress and tension in the book, and then we'll have a lot of falling action after that. But yeah, so I'm hoping that tonight and tomorrow I will, because tonight all I have to do is make dinner and maybe make some banana bread or something. Um, but then after that, I'm hoping to sit down and work on chapter 15. Um, I think also in this vlog, I'm going to talk later, maybe tomorrow, maybe a different day. I'm going to talk a little bit about some things that I think I'm doing while drafting this book that are maybe I'm kind of sabotaging myself a little bit, or some things that I feel like I'm not sure is the best course of action. So I'm going to lay those out, and like I think it's helpful to hear other people talk about that. Like I think that social media is so often curated about success that it's nice to sometimes hear when other people are frazzled and kind of clinging to sanity and like trying to get through just trying to get through their work and make things make sense in their book, and maintain some momentum. That's something I probably talk about in every video I make, is that I think that's ADHD, where like I have moments of like very high motivation and like hyper fixation on a project, and then I get sidetracked so easily by like real life stuff, and then yeah, it's kind of saps me of that energy and drive, and I have trouble kind of like doing the like, oh, write every day for just 30 minutes. Well, I when I write, I want to write more than that, and like yeah, this is stuff I probably will have talked about and will continue to blather on about in the future. So I think that's enough of that for now. So basically, yeah, this week is going to be all about choosing this alpha reader. And yeah, like I said, I'm going to talk a little bit about maybe some pitfalls that I'm guilty of with this draft already. And I'm only at like the midpoint. Hey, it's Friday, January 30th, and this week has not gone to plan at all. But I think at this point that's kind of expected. That's the norm. I didn't get a haircut. I didn't do a lot of the things that I wanted to do, but I did work on my book. I did write, and I also did hire someone to do an alpha read of my second manuscript off of Fiverr. And actually, I have a ton of things I want to say in this to round out this vlog. I have got an outline of stuff that I want to say. Let me talk a little bit about this Fiverr thing, because Early in the vlog, I was saying that I'd found a freelancer that I really liked the look of and I was interested in working with her, but she kind of pulled an almost bait and switch on me that made me back out of the deal because she quoted me a different price than was on her profile, like double the rate. And I was put off by that. And because she wanted me to do chapter by chapter, intensive critique, which isn't exactly what I want at this stage. For an alpha read, I just want someone to read the book and then give me some overall vibe check and like, do they think it works as a whole? And I don't really want really in-depth critique of each scene or each chapter because I think that stuff's going to move around as I read it myself. But yeah, it felt a little bit shady or like bait and switchy. So I ended up backing out and I found a few other potential readers on Fiverr and I chose one so far and I made the payment and she said she can deliver it within 6 days, which I think is really fast. But we'll see. Like, I don't know exactly what kind of feedback. The price was not that high, so I don't know what to really expect. But this particular reader said that she's interested in dystopian and dark romance. My book's not dark romance, but it is dystopian. So I think she can probably handle the more disturbing parts of my book. And yeah, when I get the feedback from her, I'm going to try to share it here on the channel if that's okay with her. Um, so that people can kind of have an idea of what an alpha read from a Fiverr reader is like. And, this process of selecting alpha readers has made me kind of step back from my book and think about how there are a lot of really triggering themes in this book. Like reproductive rights and reproductive violence can be, yeah, really dark and really disturbing. And the world of publishing has so many women in like agenting and editorial roles. And kind of the last thing I want is for this book to be upsetting people. So I need to, I mean, it's supposed to make you angry about like the systems that exist that, put women at a disadvantage and yeah, just create a violent world for women to live in. Like you're supposed to be angry. You're supposed to feel something, but the concern is that when I go to pitch this book, it's going to be borderline offensive for some people. So I need to make sure that my pitch doesn't soften or like sugarcoat just the the horrors within this book. And the last thing I want to do is dupe somebody into reading it and then have them have like a situation where they have to confront some really ugly feelings or like some past trauma. I won't go into it too much, but because it's really personal, but my second pregnancy was not exactly a walk in the park, physically or emotionally. So some of those thoughts, some of the high level emotional stuff going on in this book, not the actual events, but some of the general feelings are like word for word thoughts that I had in like the darkest time of that pregnancy. So yeah, there's something really raw to it. And yeah, I don't want to traumatize anyone. So that's something I need to think about going into pitching the book. And I think it was just, yeah, setting out at this early stage with just the first draft, like setting out to do an alpha read is like a good way to like prime myself to start thinking about how to present the book in a realistic way that also encourages people to want to read it. So gonna have to walk a really fine line there. And right at the moment when I was booking this freelancer, I got a little bit of anxiety and like jitters about sending my first draft to a stranger. And I don't know, like, I think probably most people are shy about sharing like their early work and their unedited work with the world or with a stranger. And I just naively thought, oh, well, I'm fine with it because my critique partner has been reading it chapter by chapter as I completed the chapters and I hadn't done any editing at all. I've shared it with a couple of close friends who are reading it now. But I guess the truth of it is that that feels very, very different than sending it out to somebody I don't know. Um, and it's not even that I'm scared of criticism. I think it's just like I want to get some like solid critique. Like I want to be told that like here are some problems with it. Here are things that you need to fix so that I can address it at this stage of early revision and not come up against that when I'm on a draft 3 or a draft 4. But I think I've been thinking about it a lot while I was doing like all these other tasks. I was trying to process like why do I feel this way about sending my draft to an alpha reader? And I think that it's because I have an imposter syndrome kind of complex where I am worried that my work is not very original or that it's too derivative of, Handmaid's Tale or, School for Good Mothers. Like, is it too close to those books in a way? I mean, the plot's different, but like, is it is it really unique enough? I think that like I worry about that I'm not very creative or I'm not saying anything special, but and I think that that's what's held me back from writing most of my life. And the reason that I only started writing now in my late 30s is because I ran into like one idea that felt really original to me, and I sat down to write that book. That was my first manuscript. And then my second manuscript, I'm kind of worried that my idea is not original enough. I don't know. I think this is just like deep seated concern or anxiety that I have. So I'm really hoping that I get feedback that doesn't say that it's derivative and feedback that says that I should keep pursuing this and that the premise is not drawing too much on other stories. She's probably not going to say that it's bad, but we'll see. I'll let you know. Yeah, so that's kind of where I am with the Fiverr thing. And then the other kind of category of things I wanted to talk about in this vlog are reflections on my current work in progress, the monkey's paw one. I get Project Primate. I've been calling it Project Primate to myself, so I'll refer to it as that here. I have some reflections from the midpoint, I guess. And honestly, I might be crashing out a little bit, as the youth say, but it's very subtle, so I'm actually not sure. Um, I have a couple of concerns. So the first one is that I'm starting to feel like my main character is a little too reactive and not proactive or active. So in the first half of the book, she does make a few choices, but she doesn't fully understand the stakes. So that kind of deadens the impact. And, you know, so I've said it's the monkey's paw retelling, but it's more fleshed out than that. And this story has a lot of hopefully underlying commentary on like consumerism, e-commerce, and the ripple effects of being too self-absorbed. So I think the central question that the book is examining is like, if we cause harm to others without malicious intent, what's our level of responsibility or guilt? And is there any absolution in benign intent or just ignorance? And I don't directly talk about the environmental or human impact of e-commerce and fast fashion, but I hope that that's what the reader layers over the story. I hope that that's what they inject into their own reading of it. I'm trying not to be too cliche about that or to be too overt in the commentary. So yeah, in my version of the monkey's paw story, instead of the monkey's paw coming from Sergeant Major Morris, who's just returned from British colonial India, instead the main character inadvertently gets the magical item from an e-commerce app. So it's kind of got a different spin on it a little bit, I hope. Um and that's the first doorway of the story, is that she gets this innocuous looking thing and she makes a few wishes without any awareness. And then there's a fun and games section where she becomes kind of suspicious that maybe this charm has some powers and she decides to test it in really inconsequential ways. wishes that don't have very much breadth or depth to them. And then we get to the second doorway, and this is the time when she makes a choice to wish for something so big that she knows that it has the potential to twist and harm others, but she does it anyway, like in sort of in a temper, in a fit of rage. And she kind of accepts the possibility that she's going to cause harm. So that's the midpoint. And the second half of the book is about her dealing with and trying to mitigate the fallout of her wish. And so throughout the narrative, she does become progressively more active, but she's still being reactive. And I don't know. Like, I do like books sometimes where the main character is like this strong female, like badass character who's super active from the very first page, and they're like driving the story. But that's not really the kind of book that I write, because that's not my own personal experience in life. Is that I feel like a lot of the big life events that I've lived through and survived have been been forced to be reactive, because maybe I wasn't forced to be reactive. Maybe that was just how handled it. I chose to be reactive instead of active, which in itself is a choice, right? I don't know. Like, I just feel like that's what reality is. Reality is our that we are reactive in our lives. And yeah, I know, like, this is fiction, so we can do better than we would do in our actual life, but I kind of I like things that feel emotionally grounded in that way. And yeah, like, this book I'm writing is speculative. Like, the one of the main plot elements is this ancient magic thing. So that's not realistic. But I feel like, on to kind of balance out this ancient magic thing, I need to also have a main character who is maybe a little bit more like a real person would be reactive in that situation. Because it is like grounded speculative. And I honestly want her to be kind of frustrating for readers. Like, she's not terribly likable. She's messy. She's kind of self-absorbed, self-centered. Like, I think we all are that way, especially like more recent generations. We're more individualistic. So I want the reader to kind of be shouting at the page and saying, "Why are you doing this? I want you to do this." It's kind of the way that you would watch your friend from the sidelines as they're like, not getting out of a toxic relationship that you both know is bad for that person, but they're not getting out of it. And you're like frustrated with this person, or like maybe you watch your friend not accept an opportunity that would be really good for them because they're like afraid to take a risk. Like, I want you to have I want the reader to have those kind of feelings when they deal with this main character. So yeah, I'm trying to strike a balance between active and reactive that actually feels like lived. um yeah, I don't have to make it perfect in this draft, but that's kind of something that I'm weighing and gauging as I go. um the other major issue that I'm running into is the question of genre. And like, I know it's speculative, but that's super broad. And I really can't tell if I'm more in like the horror category, or are we stepping into fantasy? I don't know. Maybe it's a fusion of the two. Maybe it's like cosmic horror. The book does have one really gruesome scene that's like full on body horror. It's meant to be kind of disgusting. um but in general, the book itself isn't scary. It's suspenseful, it's ominous, but it doesn't have the same like creep factor as like a ghost story or like a slasher. Like, it doesn't have that high energy fear. And yeah, it's yeah, this isn't exactly a first draft problem either, but I'm already kind of thinking ahead to like, how am I going to pitch this book, and what are my possible comps going to be? And it's yeah, it's tricky. And so I think something I need to do is, I've been reading a lot, but I think I need to find some books that are really straddling the line between horror and fantasy and kind of get a better idea of where this book would be positioned. Because I already read a lot of horror and like grounded speculative, so maybe I'm already reading in the right place, but I think I need to cross over a little more into like the fantasy and magic space to, yeah, to kind of be better informed about the market.
Hey, editing Zinnia here. So I've been digging around a little bit more into the question of genre or like really narrow subgenres because yeah, I have a lot of questions about what I'm actually writing. And I realized that my book is not magical realism, but I think it could be in the category of fabulism, which is something that I hadn't really considered or thought about. I don't think it's a very popular term that's used right now, or maybe just not a lot of people are writing in that space. There's also a genre called myth punk, which I had literally never heard of. But I guess when we talk about myth punk, the main name that comes up is Neil Gaiman, and he's like super radioactive right now. But yeah, I wonder if myth punk isn't the right thing here because we are dealing with like ancient magic crossing over into modern life and like in a very corporate way, which is I don't know. I don't think my book is really a comp for American Gods, but I'm gonna kind of think about those two as possible descriptors. I'll come back to this later when I get closer to querying. I just wanted to throw that out there that like there are some really specific subgenres that sit in this like speculative almost fantasy but not quite fantasy kind of world. I guess myth punk would be considered grounded fantasy, right? I don't know. I feel like there's so much overlap here that it's really subjective as to how you classify and pitch your book. Okay, back to the vlog.
And then I mentioned earlier that I kind of sabotaged myself a little bit. And I didn't do anything really crazy, but I went back and I read the first few chapters of the manuscript, and I'm only at the midpoint. And I walked away thinking, like, I hate my first line. Like, my first line is god awful, like, terrible, like, cliche and bad. Like, the first line needs to be cut and completely, like, I need to come at it from just like a different brain. Like, there's something really wrong. I don't know what caused me to write that. So now as I've been drafting, like I'm in chapter 16 now, I think, and like my mind keeps wandering back to like wanting to fix that first line, and I really should not have brought that into the conversation at this point, but I did. But one of the good things about going back to read the first few chapters is that honestly, like I might be a little bit delusional, but it's pretty book shaped. Like it feels like a book. It's readable. And I even found some lines that I really like. And truthfully, like I tend to black out when I'm writing. And sometimes my critique partner will like read back some lines that she really enjoyed. And I'm like, did I write that? Like, that's from my book. Like, I have no memory of writing that. So there are some good sides and some bad sides to like revisiting the first chapters. But really, I think it's mostly bad because now I'm kind of fixating on that first line. And I think I'm going to have to just sit down and brainstorm like a few possibilities and just write them down so that I can just shut the door on that for a while and focus on writing the midpoint, which is where I'm supposed to be. Um, I also feel like I should take some time to revisit my outline because yeah, this is my first time like really outlining a book before writing it. And yeah, I guess the best thing about my outline is that I didn't spend that much time on it because I didn't waste any time on it because I haven't really been following it. And I think maybe it was a good exercise in brainstorming, but I think my true writing style is planting. And yeah, I need to make some substantial revisions to the outline, or maybe I should do it as like a reverse outline situation after I finished. Um, anyway, yeah. So I don't know if I'm kind of sabotaging myself by not following my outline, but at the same time, I feel like the things that I'm writing are much better than what I had in the original outline. So yeah, it's kind of where I am. I think I've vented enough spleen for today. I've got a busy weekend with my kids. They were invited to a birthday party, so we're doing that tomorrow, Saturday. And then I have some late night English lessons tonight, so I'm going to be pretty wiped out tomorrow. And then we're going to go fly kites on Sunday, which honestly sounds like a scene out of Mary Poppins or something, but it's totally not as carefree. It's totally not as carefree in real life because the 2-year-old is always trying to like eat something she found on the ground, and the 5-year-old is not strong enough to fly a kite in high winds. So I have to be able to manage both of them at the same time. But honestly, it's great. Like we have a lot of fun together. So yeah, it's gonna be a busy weekend, but I'm gonna try and continue writing. And yeah, I'm past 40,000 words now, and I just want to keep going and like get through the midpoint, and then things are kind of falling into place narrative wise. So it's not going to write itself, but it should be a little quicker going. Anyway, yeah, I'll get this vlog up soon, and then hopefully I'll be vlogging more next week. Yeah, it's good motivation for me to write. So, yeah, and I hope it's also motivating you to write and to kind of pick your project apart and think about it from different perspectives. But yeah, okay, thanks for watching. Bye.